Hello and welcome to the Madhouse. Just 1 second, pushing buttons everywhere. Okay, it's Frantz Kantor here, cartoonist, illustrator, and toon talker. And
Are you calling the Australian Cartoon Museum a madhouse?
I'm here at the Australian Cartoon Museum with
Jim Bridges in downtown Docklands, Melbourne, at the ACM, and
might be good if I started the picture. That would be good.
you reckon?
Yeah. So here we are, Frantz Kantor. We'll start again. Frantz Kantor, drawing here at Docklands with
Jim Bridges
and the president of the Cartoon Museum. So tell who are we drawing today? It's another Fez Day.
Yeah,
This is my idea, drawing people with fezzes.
He wants to draw people with fezzes. So if you've got any people who you like wearing fezzes, give us a call. We're going to do Tommy Cooper today.
Yeah.
Tommy Cooper was a British comedian.
Yeah.
And fez wearer.
Yeah. So he was born in 1921. He died in, I think,
84?
84. So he was...
84?
Yeah, 1984.
Yeah.
He was 63 when he died. So, you know, he's a famous stand-up comedian. He had this sort of nervous tension and this ridiculous face. He's a big guy and he used to do these silly things. You know, obviously dressed up to the nines in his penguin suit.
He's a little Dutch mate.
Yeah. What style of humour is it? It's sort of like an uncomfortable delivery of puns.
Yeah, but he didn't have to tell jokes. He was a funny man. He did all these acts. He did all these failed magic tricks. But as you can see from that picture, he was sort of very zany.
Yeah.
But he had this sort of. He was a very big man, and he would do things with his hands and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, put balls in pockets and all that sort of stuff and that. But he was sort of quite strange.
Yes.
And he had this incredible nervous energy, but he was just funny. He didn't, even if he didn't have card tricks that didn't work or whatever. Or, you know, he told some jokes, but he was just funny, and his nervous energy was funny.
So you had a story about this fez. So everybody associates him with wearing the fez, you know.
Yeah.
And the story was he got a job in Egypt or something. During
Well,
the war?
no, during the war he was, you know, they were always trying to entertain the troops, and they didn't have to pay anybody, so they'd say, righto, you know, put a show together and all that sort of stuff. So he was entertaining in Cairo, and the thing he was supposed to be doing was wearing a pith helmet, and he couldn't find his pith helmet. So a waiter walked past and he grabbed the fez off him and stuck it on his head, and of course he got twice the laugh that he normally gets with the pith helmet.
So he kept symbol as a prop.
Yeah.
So
and actually, I've noticed quite a few over the years. I think he started a tradition because there's quite a few magicians who used to wear a fez. You know, I remember seeing things at parties and stuff, people wearing fezzes and
well,
stuff.
fezzes come from the Shriners, so that they
Shriners.
Yeah, the Shriners.
What are the Shriners?
They're like Freemasons. They have like meetings and they raise money for charity.
Oh, no, but the fez is older than that. What are you talking about?
No, but the Westerners.
Oh, the Westerners, yeah. But I mean, you know, the whirling dervishes and people like that, they had fezzes, didn't they?
Yeah, it's a Middle Eastern hat. Yeah. So the idea is I'm drawing characters with fezzes. I started out with Peter Lorre, and then I went on to, yesterday I did Sydney Greenstreet, and today I'm doing Tommy Cooper, and who knows where we'll go from there. So maybe if you've got an idea of someone with a fez.
What's your personal fascination with fezzes?
I just, well, it's a symbol. It's like anything else. It's a great sort of prop. You know, I love props. I think props in comedy are really good, and they're memorable, and in films and drama.
It's interesting you say that because when you look him up, they call him a prop comedian.
Yeah. So a lot of comedy is sort of, you know, there's physical comedy like the Three Stooges. There's intellectual comedy. There's rude comedy. There's, innuendo, all that sort of stuff.
There's unfunny comedy.
Yeah, but he falls in like in Australia we've had like Los Trios Rimbarcas. We're sort of uncomfortable comedy that doesn't really fit, doesn't really work, and people laugh because of the ridiculous premise and the investment of the energy.
The scared little weird guys,
So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a caricature of him, and I'm trying to discover a shape that I like, right?
That's why you like the Fez.
He's got a big head.
That's why you like the Fez. Look, you made him into...
It's kind of a cap
look,
on a bottle.
He's a lava lamp, look.
Yeah.
He's a lava lamp.
Yeah. So he's sort of like a cap, that's like a cap on a bottle.
Yeah.
So it kind of
It is like a cap on a bottle, yeah.
The energy of
yesterday's
of the artist.
drawing of Sydney's Green Street looked like a perfume bottle to me.
So, what are we doing with this? I'm just picking this shape arbitrarily because this is the sort of shape that comes to my mind, because it's sort of like a, if you look at the skull, right, the skull's pushed right back on the neck, so it's kind of revealing this open mouth, a gape gesture, and revealing like the double chins and things. It's a very unflattering sort of pose for a fat man or a big man. Certainly somebody with a double chin will tend to hide it, but in comedy you reveal it because it's part of the the premise of
it's like the hair under the hat. It's quite mad and silly.
It's part of revealing the vulnerability of the comedian, and that's what makes it special. So that pose has a lot of energy. He's got several different poses, but this one here is kind of iconic for me in my mind. I mean, other people might find this one, more to their liking. But it's just finding a handle, something to grab in terms of an idea to push a shape around the paper. That's it. That's all it is. So I don't know whether it'll be a likeness. I hope it will be. We're going to concentrate on areas of the eyes, the nose and the mouth, which is sort of like a T-zone. If you try to imagine that's where we're going to concentrate our efforts. Everything else is kind of symbolized and stylized and simplified, but we're going to try to get some detail into these areas. And hopefully with the detail comes the recognition factor.
There's not too much shadow on his face.
Well, it's sort of like flashlit from the bottom, from the left. So any shadows would fall probably on the wall, on the right, and there'd be a favouring of the shading on the right side of the figure. So that's something to keep in mind when we're building the forms.
I like the striped suit.
Yeah, it's I think it refers to like these comedians that go on, holiday cruises or holiday homes.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, it's like Max Miller. He had this.
Yeah.
He had these really unusual designs on his suit.
So
not exactly pearly kings, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
So I've taken this idea and I've kind of already, sketched it up.
You've lava lamped him.
Yeah. Well, I like this.
Yeah.
I like this. So however it comes out is
you've got a gawkiness about him already.
Yeah, well, it's like pushing back. It's like the skull pushing back on the neck.
Yeah.
Back. So you've got this already uncomfortable pose, sort of like a chicken caught in the act or something. They have that sort of uncomfortable.
Caught in the act.
Who, me?
Caught in the act of what?
Of doing chickeny things.
We're going to have to give that skull a name.
No.
Yeah. Maybe call him Murphy.
Murphy.
Do you remember Skull Murphy, the wrestler?
Yeah. Skull Murphy and Brute Bernard.
Yes.
And Contolios and Mario Milano, my favourite. Yeah. And
Killer Kowalski.
Killer Kowalski. Who was the other guy? The Australian Murphy or no?
Oh.
Not that's Skull Murphy.
Yeah, there was only two Australians.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. Sorry.
Billy White Wolf. I loved him.
You mean
Chief Billy White Wolf.
No, Chief Little Wolf.
Was it
Yeah.
Billy? Oh, Chief Little Wolf.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chief Little Wolf. He used to come in with his feathers, his chief feathers on his head and all that stuff.
Yeah. So this is before WWF,
Mind you,
obviously.
Like by the time you were born, I don't think Chief Little Wolf was wrestling anymore. But he's
Well, maybe his son.
he's famous in
was.
Australia. His daughter went on and did. She became a country and western singer.
All right.
Yeah, I met him when I was a gardener at Mount Royal Hospital. He was in one of the wards and he'd had 14 strokes or something, and he was really twisted up. And it was really hard to understand him, but I used to go and see him once a week and talk to him all the time.
All right.
He's a lovely man.
Well, I think they're all lovely except for probably Skull Murphy.
Yeah. Anyway, I like
What was the one with the claw? What was that? Skull
Oh.
Murphy, or
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
the one that had Don Lane on the floor of the studio?
That'd be right. Yeah. Good old Don Lane. Yeah. The Yankee Lank, that lanky Yank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was all. I wasn't sure. No one knew if it was, made up or what.
Well, it was all made up, except there was a bloke called Jack Briscoe, who was a Commonwealth, because he was Canadian, who was a Commonwealth wrestling champion, and he became a professional, and he used to do all these twists out of things, and he'd do acrobatic stuff. He didn't do the eye gouges and all that sort of banging them on the head and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, we're a long way away from Mr. Cooper.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I know about Tommy Cooper is that the first time I heard his name mentioned was, give him some wild hair. I think that's good. Was Parkinson. On Parkinson, he always referred to, when he'd be interviewing a comedian, he'd always refer to Tommy Cooper. And I wondered who the hell Tommy Cooper was. I thought he was some sort of strange cricketer or something, Anyway, so I looked him up and I started, there's a lot of Tommy Cooper on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Check him out. And he's a very funny man.
Yeah.
Very funny.
But he has that uncomfortable,
Yes,
style of.
he's very
like
uncomfortable.
He's mucking it up.
Yeah, and he. Anyway, let's tell the story. When he was 7, his auntie bought him a
Magic set.
a magic set. Yeah, a kit, and he practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And when he was, I think he left school and he was working as an apprentice. What's he doing? He's
Cabinet maker.
is he a cabinet maker? I think he was a
No,
cabinet maker.
Tommy.
Anyway, he was showing his mates tricks, and of course they didn't always work out. And when they didn't work out, he got a big laugh.
Yeah.
And if you get a big laugh,
That
you got
makes
any
it-
sort of audience, and you get a big laugh, I'll do that again. So
Yeah.
he started to bugger up some of his acts, like his tricks.
Yeah. And work it into the act.
Yeah, or he'd do it 3 times, and the third time it'd work. You know. And then when he was in the, he was called up in 1940, and he was in the army for the war, and he was one of the Desert Rats, fighting in the Middle East with the Australians against the Italians and the Germans with Monty. Anyway, so he was doing his acts all along. Like, for instance, they were always a lot of war is boring, sitting around waiting. So they had, they got to the soldiers to entertain themselves if they couldn't get professional people in.
Right.
And of course, he's doing his magic act, and he deliberately buggers it up, and he gets more laughs because he's, you're all waiting, you've got the tension, you've got everybody watching, and then he buggers up the card act or whatever, they fall on the floor, whatever it is, and everybody laughs,
Yeah.
The tension, he builds the tension up, and then it all bursts out into laughter. This is where the Fez comes in, because he was doing this routine where he used a, what are those big hats?
Top hat.
No, not blimp. What are they called?
Blimp.
You know, the British wear 'em, Mad Dogs and Englishmen. The big...
Oh, the beret.
No, the hat, the stiff hat. They wear it in the tropics.
Oh, the pith helmet.
Pith helmet, yeah. And of course he couldn't find it, and so there's a waiter going past him. This was in Egypt, in Cairo, and there's a waiter going past wearing a fez. So he pinched the fez off him, put it on his head, and he got all his laughs. So he said, "Oh, I'll keep that." So he kept it in his act. And after the war, he did a lot of stage work. He did, what do they call them? Those things that they have in England.
Pantomime, or
yeah, pantomime. And he played, you know, ugly sisters and all that sort of stuff, but dressed up in drag. But he had his comedy act too, which was the failed, the tricks. And then he got onto television pretty early. About 48, I think, he was on television, and then he became a big international star. But you know, like, and he was so funny. So and he even joined the Magic Circle, which is a
Magic Club.
Well,
Magicians.
Yeah, it's like Masons for magicians. You know? So he did all these deliberate mistakes. So that was his shtick, you know, his shtick. And he was influenced by Laurel and Hardy and Bob Hope. But there were British guys like Max Miller, who used to stand up and tell dirty jokes. He never made any films, but Will Hay did. He was influenced by those guys. And he worked at the Windmill Theatre, which is famous for they never closed. They had topless girls and stuff.
All right.
And during the war, during the
war they had topless girls.
Yeah, during the war when they were dropping all the bombs and stuff.
Yeah.
They had, you know, they never closed. They kept going.
All right.
And of course they changed it. They never clothed.
Oh, okay.
You know, that was the joke. And he worked there and he became a top liner. You know. And of course he took off with TV, early TV.
So TV in those days would be very, unrehearsed, kind of very on the spur of the moment, not polished like they later became.
Yeah.
So a lot of the shows and that weren't on TVs. They had a lot of variety shows.
Yeah, lots of variety, and he was part of the music hall scene, really.
Yeah.
You know, with his funny act. I think you really grabbed him already. You've got that real zany wildness about him. Well,
it's a matter of, like, I was thinking about gesture drawing. You know, when you do gesture drawing in life drawing, you try to capture a shape that exploits the energy of the figure, of the pose that you're seeing. And that's really what a gesture is. It's a way of capturing movement. And he's got a lot of energy, and this is sort of like that chicken look.
Being a big man and with all that energy and all that nervous energy, it really, that's part of his humour. Yeah. There was something funny about the way he moved and all that, you know. And you would laugh at him. You could turn the sound down. You could turn the sound down on the television set and you still laugh at him because he just had that quality. It's funny.
Not like that, like this.
Yeah, like that, yeah. Yeah, he'd do a trick with balls or something under cups, and he'd bugger it up, and then he'd do it 2 or 3 times, and then he'd either get it right or he'd just go on to the next one, you know, out of frustration. And he's after he died, because like he was very popular with everybody, you know, but he was a bit of a drunk. And he smoked a lot of cigarettes and stuff, and so he became pretty unreliable with the alcohol.
Right.
And he would turn up for gigs late, or he would rush through them. And so a gig that would take about 20 minutes, he'd do in 5. Because he wanted to get off the stage, you know. And so after a while, he didn't appear that much on television because he was always pretty regular, you know. He's just like the wallpaper of British TV, you know. Yeah.
So sometimes comedy is a way of overcompensating for shyness. A lot of people exploit that, because the thought is like, if you face your biggest fear, just jump in and conquer it. It's not so scary.
Well, a lot of comedians just tell you they get into comedy so they can meet girls.
Do they? I didn't know that.
They were too shy to meet girls, so they make them laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that
anyway,
like the way to a girl's heart through a
funny bone. Yeah. We were heading down the same track there. Okay.
It's stereo.
Yeah, and also he was apparently quite mean with money.
Yeah.
And they said he was the tightest
comedian,
tightest man in show business, and he just hated spending money, and one of his stunts was to always had the exact fare money when he got out of a taxi, and he'd say, and have a drink on me, and he'd pop something into their pocket, and of course
wasn't money.
They would put their hand in their pocket and they'd pull out a tea bag. Yeah.
So he's a good-natured skinflint.
And he was, with his drinking, it caused all sorts of problems, and it slowly wrecked his career, basically. And he had bad health anyway. He had chronic indigestion, lumbago, sciatica, bronchitis, and severe circulation problems in his legs. So maybe that's what it was, restless legs. If you ever have restless legs, you know how to drive you nuts. So maybe that was what that nervous energy was. I don't know. Yeah, that might be it. Anyway, he cut down his drinking, but he kept drinking. He didn't stop, And but Michael Parkinson was his biggest fan. And he was on his show one day, and he set up this apparatus, which was a guillotine. And he put Michael Parkinson's head in the thing, but he forgot to set the safety catch on the guillotine.
Oh dear!
And if it wasn't for a last-minute intervention by the floor manager who noticed stuff, he actually stopped Parks from getting a serious injury or worse. Can you imagine that? Tommy Cooper cuts Parky's head off on television. God, Which gets back to the fact that he also...
That's a headliner.
Yes, it's a headliner. And speaking of headliners, he died on stage. He was being filmed.
Like Sid James.
Yeah. No, did Sid James die on stage?
Yeah, I think so.
I think aren't you getting mixed up with Hancock?
Oh, Hancock. Did he die on stage?
Yeah, in Sydney.
No, I think
he fell off the stage or something.
No, I think Sid died on stage.
Oh, okay.
As
well, anyway, he collapsed and he had a big. He sometimes wear a cape as part of his act, and you have things hidden under his cape, birds and all that sort of stuff, like magicians do.
Yeah.
And he just crumpled onto the floor, and everybody's laughing their head off.
Yeah.
And then they realised that
he wasn't coming back.
He wasn't coming back, so they cut to an ad, and they dragged him off, and it was at the back, and they were trying to get relieve,
mouth to mouth.
Get him to come around, and they got a doctor to him, but he, on the way to the hospital, he was dead on arrival. So, and there was a big scandal because they had it on the news about you could actually see him die. We'll have his just collapse. And because he was such a famous person. Yeah. I mean, everybody knew who Tommy Cooper was,
Yeah.
TC. Well, the Americans would say Top Cat, but he was, Tommy Cooper.
Yeah, I would say Top Cat too.
Yeah. Anyway, that's who he was.
So a lot of the comedy of that time in the 70s, when he was big, was based on like a lot of racist jokes.
Oh yeah.
And like if you watch the
They
British show,
had the black and white minstrel show on TV
in England, yeah,
and in Australia.
Was that here?
Yeah, we had it in Australia. We had the British. I think they also had an American version.
No.
Yeah.
No way.
Well, I'm talking about early TV, not the 60s. I'm talking about the 50s. Anyway, you're probably right.
That would
Yeah.
them's farting words. They'd have a civil war all over again for that.
Anyway, he was born in Wales, and they put a statue up to him. In the town he was born. He's got his fez on.
Wow.
And they started the Tommy Cooper Society.
Right.
And the Tommy Cooper Society is to raise
Awareness for
for what
children or fezzes?
Yeah, for something like that. And Sir Anthony Hopkins, the
famous Welshman.
Yeah, another famous Welshman was another famous alcoholic Welshman. Yeah, he's the patron of the society.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
are you going to say any of his famous jokes? Or?
No, I don't.
You can Google him. It's well worth looking at his
humour.
Yeah,
he's
because
worth
it's
checking
based
out.
on.
He's worth checking out. Spend a night looking at the clips.
Yeah.
He's worth, and he's definitely a funny man. And he didn't need material to be funny.
No, you just walk on and it's his face. It's like.
Yeah. And he had the usual sort of briskness that a magician has, because a magician will move their hands around.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the hand, but you're not looking at the other hand. You're not looking at the other hand, because that's where he's doing the magic.
Yeah.
But he had a nervousness about him, and reading that thing out about that note from.
Actually, who's good at that? Steranko. He's really good at that.
What, as a magician?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Steranko, Jim Steranko, the famous cartoonist.
Yeah, we'll have to draw him.
Comic artist. We'll have to draw him one day. Yeah. Anyway, so Tommy Cooper, interesting man.
Yeah.
Bit sad the way he died.
Yeah.
And also the way his career went down because of the drinking.
Well, it's the pressure, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, I mean, most people who live in the spotlight, have pretty rough emotional lives. I remember him this tassel bit. In one thing, it keeps on. It's quite long.
Yeah, he has blowing it.
He keeps on blowing it away with his nose, and it gets on. It hits his nose and his eyes, and he would pull it apart like a curtain. All his gags,
Well, look at his face. It's like it's a punchline. So
yeah,
you don't need much to help you laugh at this.
And when after he died, about 120 boxes of all his paraphernalia went to the Victoria and Albert Museum. And, his fezzes, he had his different fezzes and all those sort of bits and pieces he had. And they were raving because he had all his gags that he used in alphabetical order.
Right.
And they thought he was a great archivist.
Oh, it saved them doing the job.
Yeah, it saved them doing the job, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of
you could tell he enjoyed this.
Post-war comedy came out of the war. The experiences of the war. The goons, all sorts of people came out of it.
Why is that? Because
I'm just saying there's a thing
about
the Americans and the British, for instance.
There's a lot of
show business in America is very it's organised. It's it's unionised even.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, in England, everybody get a few beers in them and start singing songs. You know, so the audience would sing along with the singers on the stage and all that sort of stuff. With and it was
that's a horrible idea.
People sang in the pubs. I remember as a child going to the pub with my mum and people singing, and then I hated pubs, and I went to a pub about 20 years later, and I got drunk with my mates, and I started singing, and we all got kicked out in the street. And I couldn't believe it because,
you thought that was the thing to do.
Well, yeah, that's what you did in pubs, but they changed the laws.
Yeah.
And they put carpet on the floor.
Yeah, no spitting or singing.
No spitting, no, or singing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you got the wild hair going. That's great.
Yeah, well, you need something to give that energy. You know, it's like a.
Yeah.
But it is a process. So you've got to really draw, tresses of hair. It's like they're like ribbons. You got to think of them as ribbons rather than individual hairs. So it's quite a thought process involved. Hair is nice with a pencil. It feels good. It just feels appropriate to draw the hair with a continuous stroke like that. Which you wouldn't get with a pen or a brush because you wouldn't be able to move that quick.
Yeah.
It just feels good, doing it this way. And you can get a nice smooth curve, he said before he had to use a rubber. And
great honker on him.
Yeah, well, it's a balancing act of, forms that defy gravity, and then it's off kilter, so the character's leaning back into the picture, and so he's already off balance, so you compensate by pulling forms ahead. So if we go back to the plasticine thing, excuse him not having a let's try to get some shape here. So, like if his head is falling back, like we get it in the right angle, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? So if his head is falling, if his head is falling back, like this, right, in this sort of a concave fashion, certain parts of the head would, if you're going to try to balance it back, certain parts of the head would, you'd have to push forward, right?
Yeah.
Which means, what can you push forward? Well, maybe his forehead, but definitely the nose, because the nose comes forward.
Yeah.
So you can actually compensate by having these forms that, re-establish a center of gravity.
Yeah.
So, especially in a drawing, that has sculptural qualities, has three-dimensional qualities. Yeah. The cue is that it's a round form.
Yeah.
So it's falling back, right?
Yeah.
So the more you try to pull the elements forward to try to compensate for that tilting, then the more fun you'll have with it. Kind of tries to re-establish itself. It gives it more energy and purpose.
He's got a man in the moon look.
What's that mean, man in the moon?
Well, how
big round moon face.
Well, no, not a full moon, like a
half moon.
Yeah,
it's a concave.
Yeah.
I don't have if I had a rubber skull, I'd be able to show you, by bending it. I must get some more of this stuff.
Where do you get rubber skulls from, boy?
I'm going to get some more blue tack.
Where do you get rubber skulls from?
I think you have to cast them.
I've never heard of a rubber skull.
Well, you've got rubber chickens.
Yeah, but
I'd have to make one. I'll go and make a rubber skull. If anyone has a rubber skull or has heard of one, let me know. I think it would be a great prop. Hit somebody on the head with a skull.
Can you imagine, I like Perioric, and he bounces a couple of times on the ground. You grab him and pick him up.
Yeah, and how would that be?
I've bounced him on my knee lots of times. Doing, doing, doing.
Yep.
Ah, well, there's something you don't normally see in your drawings.
What's that?
A tongue.
A tongue.
You don't normally draw tongues.
Yeah. Okay.
That's interesting.
I have never made that observation.
Well,
try to draw with my left
whether you're
hand.
drawing Mickey Mouse or this guy, the tongue's very similar. It's just a little.
Yeah, it's a tab.
Yeah. like a squashed heart with a little
like
groove down the middle.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like my squashed heart.
Your squashed heart. Do you have a heart?
Mm.
There's vicious rumours that you don't have one.
So I guess that this jacket's sort of like a boater jacket, like a nautical sort of jacket, which
Well, it's colour and movement, isn't it?
yeah,
You
I
walk out on
guess.
stage
I don't know.
with a striped jacket.
It's
not a black and white thing. It
holiday prop or something that
looks,
crooners or barbershop quartet people used to wear in the 20s or the 1880s. I don't know.
Sweet Adeline, sweet Adeline.
Yeah, which comes
But
from the Bugs Bunny show.
But they generally had, what do you call it? They had sleeves, striped shirts with those things on their sleeves. What do they call it? Those
hooks,
no, those things that
bicycle clips,
what do the girls have them on their
garters.
Garters, have garters, arm garters, to keep their
out of the money, out of the till.
Yeah, no, to keep your shirt off the paper or whatever people who did paperwork in offices had them.
Oh, clerics.
Clerics. Well, a cleric to me is a religious word.
Yeah.
Cleric, but clerics, yeah. I love the hair. Look at those bloody eyes.
Let's try to get some more definition in here. So his eyes are quite white, but you have to sort of resist it because it's a dead giveaway. Once you create this impossible impression of a white sclera, this white of the eye, you've kind of lost the subtleness of the ability to put in shine.
Especially if he's got big eyes.
Yeah.
Like his eyes open really wide, and so you see more white than normal.
Mm.
Because eyes aren't really white, are they?
No. We call them white. A lot of people, when they start drawing, they make guesses or they rely on tropes or something that they think, the teeth have to be white just to get the white out. It's like grabbing pink paint to do flesh tones, Flesh is not pink. It's never pink. It's all different colours.
Yeah.
Because it reflects the light around it, and also it's translucent, so that it's got different colours that come up from the overlaying the skin, overlaying veins and muscles and stuff like that underneath, like that. So that's a guy without skin. So there's a lot of this. All of this is different colours. There's whites and yellows and blues inside these things because they're not all veins. There's the veins. They'll be blue. Veins will be red. Arteries will be blue. Is it? No, the opposite. Yeah. So veins will be blue. Arteries are red. And everything else, like all these attachments and things, they would be sort of a creamy colour, not unlike that.
So varicose veins are all blue, are they?
Varicose veins, they're just bulgy veins.
Mm.
My father had varicose veins, and he used to joke when I was a kid. I didn't find it funny that one day, look at those veins. One day they'll explode.
Well,
wasn't sure whether he was after sympathy or disgust. Don't know, but it was like, ugh.
Were they causing him any pain?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't sort of like a. They were just big veins.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a
but
medical
people don't.
thing.
I mean, women in particular don't want them on their legs because, it doesn't go too well with their stockings.
Mm. So, this is the area I told you before.
What colour
we're
eyes do you
focusing
think
on
he
this.
has? What colour?
Well, they're blue, I think. I don't know. Yeah, they're blue.
Blue eyes.
They're ice blue. Look at the veins. It's like have a look at that. Look at the nose. It's got this sort of, rough skin. He's had acne when he was a kid.
He's
so
got a
it's
red
kind
tongue.
of laid.
Got a red tongue.
Yeah.
He's been sucking on the cricket balls.
Been around.
Sucking on the cricket balls.
There's also the one thing I wanted to mention too. He's got this incredible Frankenstein brow with almost invisible eyebrows. So it's a very muscular. It's a big muscle. This thing, look. Here it is. Here, see that? So it does bulge out quite a lot, and that's a very, depending on how it forms in the face, it can be a very, very strong feature, like this incredible amount of muscle in this organ, which means that it's been used a lot, blinking and squinting and looking and seeing and thinking, because all of these things play out over time, on your face. So it's a really good, it's a testament to the amount of energy that this guy has got. It's really, it's like, they're like biceps on the face.
Yeah, very zany.
Yeah.
I remember you did, who did, one of the goons, Harry Seacombe. He had a similar face full of boisterous muscles.
Yeah.
Bursting out all over his scon.
Well, you've got to, when you're drawing things, it's good to notice stuff. Don't just presume that, it's there or it's not there. Don't rely so much on what you see in the reference. Just think about what you're drawing, and if it makes sense, and if you can do it in a way that makes more sense, then by all means do that. There's a thing where the cheekbones should be showing up usually in all faces. This is obviously because of the pushing up effect of the cheeks. I think they're sort of hidden behind these muscles here, which is these things. So they have a very strong pulling motion, and they overlay the cheekbones. The cheekbones are very hard things that are close to the skin, so they're usually always they always feature in the caricatures or the portraits. It gives it a sort of a sense of believability. How are we going for time on this? I think you're overstaying the welcome.
You're on Fez time.
So there's no particular reason. I just like the look. It's sort of like a cap on top of a bottle, or a way of containing this energy, so you could sort of see it explode in many ways. It's a nice. I think it's a nice sort of aspect for characters to wear that, and whenever I see it, I think of Tommy. If I look at Peter Lorre or Ren, Howick from the Ren and Stimpy show, or Morocco Mole, doesn't matter what they're referring to Peter Lorre at all. It's
Morocco Mole is Peter Lorre, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that where the source material comes from and the voice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a.
Who was he on with?
Huh?
Morocco Mole. He wasn't. What was like? I've only.
Secret Squirrel.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So he had a purple mask.
So what did your dad think of Tommy Cooper? Because your dad was a Pom.
Yeah, I think he responded to him. I just think there was a lot of back in the 70s. There was a lot of British comedians on our TVs here in Australia.
Well, we had more British TV than early TV than America,
or Britain probably.
Well, I don't know about that.
We still have a lot.
Yeah.
Look, people.
But we were
if it's around,
dominated.
people
We were
like
just
it.
dominated. You know.
We were dominated
Well, by
by funny.
Steptoe and Son, and the last of the 1948 shows, and the
Not the 9 o'clock
Pythons.
news.
Yeah, not the 9 o'clock news. And all those.
Mr. Bean.
Well, that came later. Yeah. But they had variety shows. I mean, they had variety shows
Morecambe
on TV.
and Wise.
Yeah, they had variety shows, and even Australia had. I mean, we had Sunny Side Up, where you'd have a comedian, and you'd have dancers, and you'd have singers, and you'd have the odd magician.
I don't know what that is. Is that like the Tonight Show or something?
Yeah, well, they
show?
were like the stage shows, like they
Oh,
a
okay.
variety show. You could, and variety shows came out of vaudeville and music hall, especially in England. It was all music hall,
Mm.
A lot of audience participation, people yelling out and
Well,
singing.
all the Morecambe and Wise met on the road.
Yeah.
Doing that stuff. So I guess it's part of the tradition. Never happened here.
Who was the
'cause
guy
people
with the
would show-
glasses? Was that
Eric Morecambe?
Eric Morecambe?
Yeah, because the other guy
And-
was
and
Little Ern.
Ernie Wise.
Yeah, he was otherwise called Little Ern.
Little Ern. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, Morecambe's the sort of character who put a fez on for an effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they all had their own style. His was sort of that sarcastic, taking the mickey out of people all the time. He's got some gnashes on him. This guy, some broken teeth.
Yeah, he was a big man. He was 6'3", I think. 215 pounds.
What's that in wrestling money? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
It's a lot.
20 stone or something. I don't know. He was a big man. I remember that. You don't notice things like that on television, but I
No, it's TV always,
Yeah, but
it adjusts to your size, I guess. Some lovely folds of skin, that sort of reveal like that sort of rubberiness of the face. I like comedians, especially if they have a physical, if they use physical comedy in any way. And this is kind of sort of physical because he makes these ridiculous expressions. So he's got quite a distinctive face, which is a kind way of saying he's not pretty. But he'll use it, it's part of that. He'll use it as part of his personality.
Well, physical comedians like Jim Carrey, I mean, they'd practice in front of the mirror, stretching their face as much as they possibly could, and after a while, I suppose it's like the eyes. If you open your eyes enough and stretch them, you'll be able to do it more than the average person.
Yeah, but it's also there's a certain fearlessness, I think, in that very thing, like just to do that.
Well, to do embarrassing noises and to push it, that's what comedy is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or
It's if you're embarrassed, that's a good thing because you can use that.
yeah.
All right, let's try to finish this this caricature off. So, just trying to kick up some of the black, just a little bit, so I can help establish more of a contrast. So I don't want to outline anything, too much. I just want to sort of get just a little bit of help on the some of the details. There was a black brush. Here it is. A black spot. Might do a white.
Background.
Yeah.
And go with the eyes. I wonder what the story is behind a fez. It's a pretty distinguished shape for a hat, isn't it?
Mm. Well, it's a Middle Eastern hat, but it came, I think Kemal Ataturk, I think probably, or someone made it as part of the military uniform, so it became like a the Aussie slouch hat.
Yeah.
It proliferated.
Was this thing to stop the flies?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a thing. There's some sort of.
There's some sort of. There must be a story behind it. There must be a story behind it.
Yeah, there is. You can look it up. The history of the fez. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. It's just it has like a significance that.
Well, there's probably a town called Fez where it came from.
There is, and there's a river, in
the
Morocco.
River Fez.
Well, they say it came from Morocco, but Morocco was one of the the Ottoman conquered cities, right? So they have they would have taken it back to Turkey. And in the West, it's kind of accepted to, like Shriners, for example, use Arabic names for plus the
What are Shriners? I've never heard of them.
Yeah, like Freemasons.
Yeah, but everybody's heard of Freemasons. They've got halls all over the place,
Yeah, so they would use Arabic names. So you'd have like an Arabic town or something as your club.
So Shriners are a British invention? Like an explorers club or something?
Yeah, no, not really. It's more like a entertainers thing. I think it was an American.
Okay.
It's like Fred Flintstone's, the Royal Order of the...
Poobah.
Yeah, the water buffaloes.
Yeah, water buffalo.
That stuff.
He was head Poobah.
Grand Poobah.
Yeah, head Poobah. Yeah. But that's a send-up of Masons.
Yeah, Masons do that too. I don't know whether Masons wear fezzes.
No.
But, no, they wear other things. They wear aprons, obviously. And doilies.
They drink a lot of alcohol, I know that.
Yeah. I like this face. I'm really I'm warming to it now. The some white. Let's get some white in there. Use that. So it should be bigger. That should cover up a lot of sin.
Cover up a lot of sin.
Yeah. Now, because the white, I want to put in that broken sharp tooth there. And some of the reflections back
just
in.
Little highlights. You don't have to make them
like
all white.
Spit,
you don't have to make them all white.
Spit in the mouth and wet things and stuff, and just to help out here and there with a bit of light points and contrasts. That's all. What was I was going to put the... now I'm going to move up into the danger zone. Here we go.
You need that?
No. I'm going to rest on my knuckle.
Ah, the old knuckle. What are they... painters have that stick with the knob on the end.
Yeah, maul stick.
It's what? It's...
Maul.
Maul?
Maul or maul stick.
Oh, okay. And they use it to rest their hand on, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to get a steady grip, a steady hand on...
Yeah.
You rest the ball on the side of the painting, and you can then put your hand on the stick.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a prop. Michelangelo, when he did the Sistine Chapel ceiling, had a big one.
He had a big one, did he?
Yeah, he had a 50-foot.
Well, he laid on his back. He laid on his back doing that.
That would be a horrible job.
Yeah, it was. He didn't want to do it.
No.
I'm a sculptor.
There's a film, The Agony and the Ecstasy,
Yeah,
where
with Chuck Heston.
yeah, and who was the Pope?
Rex Harrison.
And he used to come in. When will you finish?
And then the Columbine ad came out.
Yeah.
And when are you going to be finished? Oh, when I eat my Columbine. Yeah, that a lot of school kids. When are you going to be finished? When are you going to be finished? Yeah. He put the Pope in hell because he did the roof and then he did the back, which was about the end of when everybody dies and they all go to hell or heaven.
Yeah.
And he put himself and the Pope
Purgatory.
in hell, I think.
Yeah.
I think he put himself in purgatory, but he put the Pope in hell.
Yeah. And they couldn't arrest him because then it would mean that the painting would never get done. They must have. I'm pretty sure they would have thought of it like, "You bastard,
Well,
we're going to arrest you for
It's interesting.
heresy."
When you start reading about Michelangelo, you feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
But the more you find out about him, he was a rich bloke. They're
all rich.
He conned them. No, not really. He got his way,
Raphael, when Raphael died, he had a funeral bigger than the Pope.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
There's no two ways about it. The church needed them more than they needed the church. Because you had a lot of this stuff, people, saying, you're trying to sell something that's you have to read.
Well, especially Mary. Like
who reads?
What's his name? Raphael really did those Madonnas beautifully, And his Mary and Child are still got a modern feel about them, whereas a lot of those guys, they're very caught up in their Byzantine sort of, style.
Yeah, with the clothing and that. Yeah, they're sort of
Shoe
referring it to things.
Sandal coming off the child and all that.
Well, it's because they're trying to. It's like commercial art. They're trying to appeal to a wide audience, and the audience was illiterate.
I think the best Madonnas, Mary and Child, were done by Raphael and an American impressionist, Mary Cassatt. She did wonderful stuff. Probably the best painter of mothers ever. Maternal, scenes.
Right. Well, good on your mum.
Tip Top's the one. Are you going to darken his fez slightly?
No. I'm relying on the grey paper. I think
you are relying upon the grey.
I don't want to screw around too much with the fez. I was, I could have made it red, but I don't want to sort of screw around with it because it is grey paper. Yeah. Whatever colour you put on there is not going to be. It's not going to be strong enough to appease the ghosts.
The ghost.
This is Tommy Cooper, and comedian extraordinaire, and fez wearer, and that's why I'm drawing him.
Not that way, this way.
Yeah, not that way, this way. Not like that, like this. Yeah. And this is Frantz Kantor and
Jim Bridges.
And we'll catch you
on the flip side.
On the flip side. Bye-bye.
See you, Tommy. We'll go see Tommy.